Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe for more. Smart thinking. What is smart thinking? There are many words associated with what is loosely termed thinking. We are often told to think about the issues, to analyze in more depth, to use reasoning, or to be rational. Sometimes, perhaps with reference to computers, or to the legendary Star Trek character Mr. Spock, we are told to be logical. Often students are told that they must think critically if they are to succeed. When people write essays or reports, they are usually advised to make sure that they have a good argument or that they explain in detail. But do students and lecturers really know what these words and phrases mean? Can we actually identify the key skills and underlying techniques that allow us to think better? The answer is yes. Smart thinking means knowing how to work out and express your main ideas. Plan your communication of ideas so that they can be clearly understood. Check to see if you have covered all the important parts of your topic. Establish a framework or structure in which your basic facts and evidence make sense. Present ideas by linking them together to convince readers of your conclusion. Moreover, we must also relate thinking to knowledge and information, what we think about, and the processes of communicating our ideas, either in written or oral form. Thinking is one aspect of an integrated process of finding, analyzing, and communicating information. Your thinking begins even when you are deciding what to read and write about. Smart thinking can assist you in working out where and how to look for the information you need. Understanding that information in relation to your own work. Deciding which information is relevant to your topic and which is not. Identifying when you need to find out more information to make sense of a problem. Smart thinking can also improve your capacity to set your communication in context. It alerts you to the importance of your audience and their expectations of what you are doing. The requirements upon you to communicate in a certain way in a certain situation. Your own assumptions and biases, and the role of society in forming those biases, which will need to be considered and explored through your communication. To think smart, you must use reasoning. Reasoning is the basis of much of our thinking. It is often described simply as the process of thinking through and communicating our reasons for holding certain views or conclusions. Reasoning is, however, better defined as a process of understanding and exploring the relationships between the many events, objects, and ideas in our world. None of these individual items can be meaningful in and of itself. An item can only be understood in relation to other ones. Reasoning enables us to get beyond a world of innumerable separate events, objects, and ideas. Using reasoning, we see that all these separate items are interconnected, and what we know about any particular object depends on our knowledge of other objects. Sometimes the connections are obvious, other times they are much harder to see. Reasoning involves finding and expressing these connections or relationships so that each individual event, object, or idea is explicable in terms of other events, objects, or ideas. Exercise 1.1. Smart thinking demands that we do more than just think vaguely about things. Before we look at reasoning, the key underlying process of thinking, let's consider some common, informal ideas about thinking. Look at the 4 actions listed below and, writing on a piece of paper, list some examples in your own life of when you have successfully done these actions and why you did them. The answers contain more discussion of each one. Ask questions of ourselves and others. Seek out information. Make connections. Interpret and evaluate. Reasoning. Reasoning represents one of the great advances that human beings have made in their ability to understand and make sense of the world. It has been described as a complex weave of abilities that help you get someone else's point, explain a complicated idea, generate reasons for your viewpoints, evaluate the reasons given by others, decide what information to accept or reject, see the pros as well as the cons, and so forth. Yet it is also the case that reasoning does not come naturally but must be learnt and can be improved. Let us begin with an easy example. Imagine you hold an apple in one hand and an orange in the other. Now, at first sight, these two objects appear to be completely different. Each would seem to be understandable only in its own terms, that is, in a way unique to each apple and each orange. However, we are better able to understand them and to communicate what we think about them when we start to make connections. Here are some examples. An apple is not an orange. An apple and an orange are similar, both are pieces of fruit. This apple will be, roughly speaking, the same as all the other apples I have eaten. If I eat this orange and I like the taste, then I can assume that generally I will like the taste of other oranges. You should eat this fruit because you are hungry. Obviously, this list makes only a few simple connections between the two particular pieces of fruit that we are considering. It also makes a few connections between the orange and the apple and other pieces of fruit generally, and the latter connections relate fruit to people. If we did not make these connections, then every time we ate an orange, for example, it would be a new experience. We would not be able to rely on past experience or on our experiences with other things, nor would we be able to make any predictions about future experience. Such a world might be interesting, as each morning you drank your orange juice and had a whole new experience, but it would also be extremely confusing. Moreover, if you think about a more complex example, say, deciding to study for a university degree, you can see that, without the ability to make connections between things, you would not be able to make your decision in the way that all of us take for granted, by thinking, for example, a university degree will help me get a better job. When we start to make connections, we are able to know things of which we have no direct experience, and which may not yet have happened. Of course, since we live in a society in which reasoning is accepted as the main method of processing information, we already use reasoning, but we usually do not think about it. Often, we can feel reasonably certain about our knowledge because it is based on evidence of things that we do know about. For example, in the past, when driving down the freeway after work, I have found that there is usually a traffic jam. Because of the traffic jam, it always takes a long time to get home. So, today, because I need to get home quickly, I had better leave work earlier. The conclusion that I had better leave work earlier follows from the evidence or reasons given for it. We can say that it is a reasonable conclusion. Using reasoning requires us to look for and rely on structures of connections between separate things or events in the world. It also requires us to make an active effort to create these structures, to make the connections that we cannot easily see. The two main kinds of relationships that underpin these structures are how things relate to one another at any given moment, syntagmatic relationships such as an orange is a citrus fruit, or citrus fruits are edible. How things relate to one another over time, paradigmatic relationships such as eating too many oranges made me feel sick, or if I want vitamin C, then I should eat an orange. Working out the precise relationship requires attention to a number of patterns that might help us to see how one thing is linked to another. These patterns can be understood through concepts such as similarity, difference, commonality, inconsistency, necessity and sufficiency. When we make these connections, we are able to function much more effectively and to make sense of the world around us. In particular, we are more capable of communicating our ideas and discussing knowledge with other people. The things, then, that we do with reasoning, as a form of communication, are arguing, "You should not believe what you see on television because," for explaining, "Digital television has been introduced because," single quote closing parenthesis. Making decisions, "See, think we should buy a digital television receiver because," single quote closing parenthesis. Predicting the future, "I expect digital television to make pay television better because," single quote closing parenthesis. Exploring issues, "How will digital television link to the internet?" Single quote closing parenthesis. Finding answers, "Why did the government decide on a higher quality digital television standard, single quote closing parenthesis. Justifying actions. When first introduced, I thought subscribing to pay television was not a good idea because, single quote closing parenthesis dot. So, smart thinking is about reasoning, which is about the use and communication of knowledge. Researching, reading, analyzing, testing, checking, planning, and writing all depend on understanding those interrelationships. Once you understand that knowledge consists of innumerable interrelations between small bits of information, then you will be able to find, shape, and use knowledge for yourself. But reasoning is also about people, the authors and audiences of arguments, explanations, and so on. And it is in relation to the human, social aspect of reasoning that we must really be smart. Reasoning is not just formal logic, nor is it an abstract way of thinking about ideas. It is always a social act. People always use reasoning for particular purposes, be they economic, political, or whatever. They all have different perspectives on the issues being debated. Their age, class, race, gender, and ethnicity all influence the broad structures upon which they rely in reasoning. If we forget that reasoning has this social aspect, then we will run the risk of failing to think effectively. This point will be explored in more detail in later chapters. The connections and relations between ideas, events, proposals, and so on only become meaningful in the context of how, when, where, and why they are communicated with others. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe for more.